Hello everyone, and welcome back to another top-level match of Beyond All Reason. Today, spawning in the southwestern corner of Delta Siege Drive version 5.7, it's gonna be Seagull representing our red team. Still playing with that Halloween witch's hat and broom here as an Armada commander, and going to be representing the red team in the southern location. This is a bit of a tricky one. You can always go for forward support on your forward line, or you can go for a little bit more of a greedy build here. You have 4 metal extractors at your disposal, but on Delta Siege Drive, can you really afford to keep yourself off the fighting on the front? Spawning on the other side, right up against in the mirrored position, also playing as an Armada commander, it's gonna be Coochie. Coochie gonna be playing as our blue Canadian Armada team leader, clocking in at 44 true skill over here to Seagull's 47. They're gonna be showing us what they've got. Now, apparently today, as you may have noticed, we've got a bit of a quick match, and I have no doubts that it's gonna be, at least in small part, due to some cheeky strategies later on. Without getting into too many spoilers, I have a feeling we're gonna see some prominent airplay. Now, Delta Siege Dry, today brought to you by Linkcraft Designs, by the way. You can go check out their Irish handmade custom 3D portraitures of dogs and cats made to resemble your favorite pet of choice. Check the link out in the description down below, by the way, and use code BRIGHTWORKS at checkout to save 15% on your offer. Send me a little love back as well. Brought to you today is the Flatlands of DSDR. Very wide open and flat terrain on the southern side of this map, perfect for vehicle combat, and indeed that is what we see coming out of just about every single one of these players here, including JT Lane, who is the middle lane player here for the blue team, and 200 IQ Dr. Smashy. Looks like Seagull has decided to get into that fight right away. Going to be sending a couple of rovers across the map. I'd love to see it. That early aggression can oftentimes be the difference between winning and losing in these maps, right? I mean, it's a couple hundred metal here and there, losing a metal extractor or two, but eventually that adds up. And with the way that the economies exponentially grow in this game, a couple hundred metal in the early game can be significantly more important than a couple hundred metal in the late game. One grunt has broken through the lines over here by ESCFTW. Our powder blue player going to be making it all the way to the back lines here. Going to find Crypto's base. Crypto in a little bit of trouble because the energy is looking quite poor. Went into a whole bunch of those wind turbines just for the wind speed to remain relatively low here, and that has been unfortunate, and now it means the Cryptos does not have any units out on the field. Getting his first constructor out just about now. Went for that radar tower, which is quite nice. At the very least, going to offer a little bit of long-range detection, giving you a intuition as to when, where, and why your enemy is attacking you. Although the why, I guess, should be pretty well figured out. Ammo Genie going to be the green player in charge, and Large holding the middle section of the map here. This is a very important section to hold. Somebody was discussing balance with me well, a while ago at this point now. Feels recent, but it was a while ago. Talking about how this hill right here causes a little bit of imbalance on this map, and one of the ways that you can counter that is just knowing that you have to be a little more aggressive about that hill, right? Just making sure that you're doing everything in your power to contest this hill and make sure that, yeah, you can maintain control of it. Now, I do see a transport out already handed over to Console plus Zaddy. I wonder if he's going to transport this commander over to the hillside. We do see that quite often. It would be pertinent of Ammo Genie to produce an anti-air tower or even an anti-air bot and go park it up on this hill. That's what I like to do when I play DSDR. Oftentimes you can get a anti-air bot pumped out. It's very expensive, especially for an early game economy, but certainly well worth it if you can get a early anti-air bot over to this hill to shoot down any commanders that may or may not be trying to make their way over to that mountain peak. Crypto's now pushing up the middle of the map. Unsecured metal extractors right here, very prone to run by. We do already see a couple of dead troops lying in ruin on the desert faces of DSDR. Reminds me of my hometown. Crypto's here, wearing that pumpkin proudly on his head. Incisor, derping about on that metal extractor. Will he or will he never figure out how to get away? Looks like he will be able to rejoin his brethren here on the front lines after discovering that indeed those treads are meant for turning, and those laser tanks will hold the front line. Incisor's got a little bit of a buff than they used to be. I mean, this is probably old news at this point, but oh, cheeky. Coochie already with a couple of air transports, moving some Centurion across the map here. Coochie was in the backline position, so safe to say that those Centurion were going to be uncontested here. But yeah, these Centurion are now flying their way all the way across the map. We are going to drop them right in the backline here, and there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, Kryptos is effectively out here. Fighters eventually shoot down the transports, but those transports are barren. OPAF, says Nazah. Yeah, now you've got a bunch of Centurion in your back line, blasting apart your entire economy here. Incisors, yeah, not going to be enough to burn through the thick armor plating on those Centurion there. And now they're going to blast down the laboratory just about as quick as they can. Shutting down all of the production here for Kryptos, at least for the time being. A couple of constructors are still alive, though. It'd be nice to see those helping out with the construction here. Right now they're repairing the laboratory, trying to keep it alive. Centurion eventually cleaned up here, but that's all the wind turbines going down right now for Kryptos, who is in a little bit of trouble. Wouldn't mind seeing some wind turbines shared over here from Seagull to Kryptos just to make sure that that player can stay in the fight, especially with those incisors. I'm not sure if these require energy to fire, but if they do, then a lack of energy obviously is going to be a tremendous detriment. LLTs certainly require energy to fire, and not having energy, well, means your LLTs are just 90 metal sitting out on the battlefield looking pretty. Grunt's now able to run by because there's just not enough units in the backline. The front line was weakened because units were pulled to deal with the Centurions. And then obviously that means the reinforcements weren't coming out as quickly. Now the Grunts are tearing apart the economy once again, finishing the job that those Centurions started, popping the very last of the wind turbines here for Kryptos, who is now in a crippling energy shortage. Nicely done with that air. Those Centurion drops were very, very effective. Just 2 of them, but they managed to ravage the backline there. Just a little bit too slow of a response from the air player here, Quiet Listener. And indeed, that's going to be the tan player for the most part, reduced to just the units on the field right now. Construction vehicles, at the very least, did stay alive, and so getting back into this game is not going to be impossible. Kryptos is on the back foot. It's going to give Escape for the win the advantage decisively here. Those aggravators out on the field are going to be great for breaking any T1 static defenses. Yeah, Kryptos just... now with only 45-ish energy production, 50-ish energy production, more or less, depending on the wind speed right now. Gonna take a while before production comes back up to speed. No construction turrets back here either. That would be tremendously useful, having just a little more build power in the backline. But again, how are you gonna go for that if you don't even have the energy to produce one? Northern side has devolved into aggravators versus shell shockers. Shell shockers quite a bit longer range on their upward-facing snozzles. And those aggravators are really afraid to push in there, rightfully so. There's 3 Janices ready to fire those heavy-hitting rockets and dismantle those Rocketeers aggravators with a swift and merciless bout of destruction. LLT falling here, as well as the Thistle, to the Rocketeers, pushing up this mountain here for Consul Bliss Zaddy, who has gotten a full surround on Ammo Genie, actually. Got the maces over here to deny the commander coming down this hillside, and then we've got the Rocketeers pushing up on this left-hand side, breaking the T1 defenses, shutting down the lab, and now Ammo Genie is in a pretty precarious position. What are we going to do about this? Trying to reclaim the lab at the very least, make light of a, tricky situation. Yeah. Dip, dodge, dive, duck, and dash away from those rockets as quick as you can, Ammo Genie. You are not the gingerbread man. You need to get out of there. The LLT is going to burst down that commander extremely quickly alongside those Centurions, and that will be the green commander. Nicely killed right there by Consul Bliss Zaddy. Sort of a checkmate situation, it feels like, getting the green commander pinned in and going to be able to eat up that juicy, juicy commander wreckage. Seagull has now stepped down to the low ground here, helping to eat up some of that metal. Wonderful. Helping, in air quotes, right? Got to take it with a little bit of salt there. This front line is also being pushed in quite nicely here. Tom Ruler and JT Lane both pushing in, trying their very best to get as good an engagement as possible. Those Janices looking for the right connection against those medium tanks, and it's not going to be too hard to find it. Looks like Seagull has teched all the way up to T2, so with those Mauser hitting the battlefield, shouldn't be too long before we see these T1 units either deciding to pull the trigger and jump on top of all this, or retreating backwards until T2 of their own can come out. A decisive wall through the middle has been set up here by Tom Ruler. Interesting. Going to be using that mine layer here, the Groundhog, in order to set up some static defenses, I suppose. Not the end of the world, and certainly going to slow down a vehicle push, or divert a vehicle push at the very least. Yeah, this artillery is starting to hurt, though. It's basically just a bunch of Whistlers set up over here. Oh, nice D-gun right there by Tom Ruler, shutting down about a quarter of those tanks for a listless impression. Nicely done here for our Lavender player. Very, very nicely done. Consul Bliss Zaddy now with a fair control over the section over here, but that does necessitate Laughing pulling the units and helping out here with the green player. But that means, of course, that Laughing has no units up north of his own. Tom Ruler's commander goes down as the Mauser get involved in this fight over here. Those T2 will be the tiebreaker that decides who wins this fight. It's going to go towards the red team. Now those T1 units are forced to scram as T2, I'm sure, is almost done here for the back line of the blue team. Yep, we've got T2 bots coming out here. Very cheap, very maneuverable, but across the center of this wasteland on the southern side, I think I'd much prefer to see vehicles coming out here, so I would love to see Ficus going for a T2 vehicle transition, so switching out of the T2 bot lab and into a T2 vehicle lab. I think that would make a lot of sense. A little bit tricky to pull off because you do have to go into that T1 vehicle lab and then up into T2 vehicles, but all things considered, I still think that would probably be the right decision to make here. Otherwise, I do believe that those Mauser alongside any Starlight that come out are just going to whittle down any of your T1 bots real quick. That being said, you do get access to those spy bots, which can be tremendously useful against, well, basically any composition. You make enough of those spy bots and you can pretty much paralyze any vehicle army and kind of nullify any effect that the vehicles have, positive or negative. But you can see that T1 army just being devastated by the Mausers. That is brutal. Mauser don't really care about the wall there. The wall is more of an inconvenience to the bots at this point than it is to the Mauser. They're more than happy to just fire right on over those walls. Yep. Down goes the heavy laser turret. Radar and radar jammer vehicle included in the mix here, just to make sure that there's constant coverage so that they can't be fired back upon by any of the longest range T1 units. Medium tank's gonna help with some of that vision as well. Just like that, we're seeing the T1 era coming to a close here. Just about 11 minutes into this game, and already we're stepping into T2 here. At the very least, we need to be. The blue team a little bit slow on their T2 response, I gotta say. Yeah, going into a T2 or T1 air lab over here. It's Coochie. We're going up to T2 economies here. But ESC for the win has no units. Well, has no T2 units. No bot lab at the very least. Commander out on the front line, very risky as well. Those Mauser are going to be quick to dismantle that bad boy. Yep. Down he goes with just a couple of volleys, taking the entire army with him. And just like that, you see a huge portion of the blue team's forces on the front lines going down right now. Eating up that T1 lab to go for T2 metal extractors, it's a risky decision, and I think that risk is coming back to bite our powder blue player in the butt. Yeah, those Mauser, all they need to do is push forward here and realize that there's essentially nothing stopping them at this point from ravaging the base here of the southern blue player. T2 Pitbull is coming up. Pitbull, of course, besiegeable. Those Mauser greatly outrange the Pitbull, so they'd be more than happy to tear this well, T2 static defense down. It's the T1 of the T2, if that makes any sense. Maybe not the most accurate way to say that, but you understand the idea here. Coochie deciding to go into some static defense over here. That's an interesting decision. So spending all that metal that he's been saving up here on a rattlesnake out in sort of the middle of the map, I suppose. How much area does this cover? You know what? It does cover a wide area here. Yeah. Okay. It'll be inconvenient, at the very least, for the red player to push into this. How much damage can it do before the defenses crumble over here is the question. Even those T1 tanks stand up relatively well against the Pitbull here, and you can see it just falling rather quickly to the Mauser. The Rattlesnake, though, is firing away. Now, there's radar and radar jammer over here, so at the very least, nothing short of line of sight is going to reveal for this Rattlesnake the position. Oh, left a little bit early there. Jammer didn't quite come up in time. Yeah, this base is falling to ruin here. Rattlesnake desperately trying to shut down all these T1 tanks, but it just doesn't do enough damage to justify that $2,500 price tag against these T1 medium tanks. Pitbull's a little bit better suited for that job, but even still, I feel like this static defense could have been a couple of spy bots or maybe a couple of sharpshooters or something like that, and maybe done a little bit better of a job here. All that static defense will be destroyed as per the mandata of the, I don't know if I used that word correctly, as per the prerogative of these these Mauser, which are essentially designed to break static defense. And just like that, we see the red player sweeping through on the southern side right now. Coochie setting up another Rattlesnake over here. Really heavily investing in these. I wonder if there's some secret meta that I haven't seen recently. If there's a new and developing meta, I'm happy to see it, but this doesn't seem like it's having much of an effect here. It's annoying for sure. The Rattlesnake besieging these units does oppress that section of the map a little bit, but yeah, I'm just not sure if that's really the pinnacle of defense right now. Pitbull's coming up, so that's nice. Going to help the Rattlesnake get a slightly better trade here. Okay, yeah, now it's connecting. There we go. Now we're getting some serious connections. The spy camera right here, providing the vision that is necessary for that thing to line up its shot. It does take down the radar jammer as well, and so for the time being, those Maus are finally going to be pushed back. And I would say that this is probably paid for itself. At this point, 8 kills to its name. I think I'd probably like to see quite a few more in order to justify that heavy price tag, but for the time being, we're off to a good start. Commander in a little bit of trouble here too. Well, more or less. This is annoying. There's a shell shocker just raining fire up on this hill over here. Continuing to be a pest. Now the AoE is totally killing these tanks. You can see the splash on the rattlesnake here is quite tremendous. Capable of blasting away at these clustered up units quite nicely here. There's also a ambassador, which is perfect for breaking these sieged lines. However, it's being distracted by these ticks quite nicely that have been set on a repeat command. And so with those being set to move around right here, you can see they trigger the rocket explosion over here and then run away. And by the time the rocket connects over here, they've long since moved on. It's a really effective way of saving yourself a whole lot of APM while draining the ammunitions out of your opponent here. Bunch of cactus over here. Peyote, I suppose. Never noticed that before. I suppose that area gets wrought to ruin quite frequently, and I guess I just never noticed there were some fun little cacti over there. Wonderful. The ticks have stopped moving. No longer are they as effective over there. Northern side has completely fallen for the blue into the hands of the red. Consul Plissati hiding the commander over here, just outside of radar range. Trying to keep its radar signature cloaked here by keeping it right up against the mountain. And I think it is working. I don't know if the blue team sees it. We can check really quick. Oh, they do see it. Okay. They know that something's lingering over there, but they don't know quite what it is just yet. Middle side still hotly contested right now. T2 has finally hit the field here, but there's only so many T2 Jaguar lightning tanks going up against those T1 medium tanks. Numbers oftentimes determine the victor here. This is quite nice though. The Resbots eating up this big wreckage field down there are probably going to be the only comeback mechanic available right now for the blue team, that is. Spiderbots trying to get over here. Spiderbots appear to be resistant to EMP. That's quite cool. We also, I do believe, have the EMP rework toggled. So it looks like this guy's getting progressively slower here. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Either way, Spiderbot's very resistant to EMP. Not gonna go down without a fight. Kind of makes sense, right? They're sort of designed to be an intrusive unit, so they have a little bit more survivability in terms of resistance to EMP. JT Lane's commander is here, and 1 or 2 killer D-guns could absolutely shred this T1 medium tank army. 3,000 metal of T1 medium tanks and a couple of Janus included in that mixture. The Janus are probably the most threatening thing here. The medium tanks can be danced around and D-gunned and all that, but those Januses, they need to only fire and forget. But you sure won't. They blast with such an impact. It's hard to forget that once or twice after they've hit your commander. They're a devastating unit. Surely one of the biggest gripes that Cortex commanders have around the many worlds that are contested and beyond all reason. Rocket Spiders doing a great job over here. I've been toying with the idea of making a composition of Rocket Spiders and Webbers, Recluses and Webbers, because the Webbers paralyze units, right? So they would keep them in one spot, and then the Recluses can fire their rockets away, making them much more accurate. This is the right way to kite, by the way. Ficus is doing an excellent job right here. The way you want to kite these is by moving parallel with the Rocket Spiders. If you do that, then you're going to... Essentially, the Rocket Spiders are going to miss all the rockets they fire at you. So that was really nicely done. That was, as far as efficiently microing against those spiders go, that's pretty much how you want to do it. Excellent showcase there. And now Resbot's trying to eat up as many of these corpses as possible. Mostly not going to, though. It's a bit of a bummer. Wasted Resbots are always a shame. There's a whole bunch of them just sitting around over here. I wonder what we're doing with those. There's commander wreckage over here as well. That's good eats. Looks like these robots are gonna go try and resurrect it. Little do they know that it's half eaten. So yeah, they're gonna have to put about 1,000 metal into that bad boy if they want to get it back up and running. Probably not worth it. A flame turret will be resurrected though. That's much better. Yeah, just eat up that metal. I think it's the right decision here. At this point, multiple rattlesnakes, multiple pit bulls. Oh, and all right, I guess the blue team just decides it's time to tap out here, as they must feel pretty overwhelmed now by the impact of the red team. I think that might have been a little early of a GG, but still I can understand with the pressure mounting on the northern side here. It was only moments before those spiders broke through into the backline economies, and then the northern side fell slowly in a just slightly under efficient trade. T3 was already underway, and as soon as those hit the field, I'm sure it would have been a turn of a battle. Maybe a little bit early on the GG, but still, nonetheless, an impressive game. Love seeing those cheeky Centurions early game. That definitely gave a significant advantage over here, even if at the end it didn't manage to lead to a victory. I'd love to see that meta developed. If you ever have a replay like that you'd like to submit, you figure out how to do the Centurion drops more effectively, go ahead and send it to the Discord, which I will have links down below. There's a special channel called Replay Submissions where I comb through to find games like this all the time. And you put it in there, and there's a good shot that it will be featured on the channel. Anyway, all that aside, I do hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. I will see you in the very next video. Peace out, folks.